Hi everyone, this is Killshot99 Gaming. This is The Walking Dead Season 9, Negan's New Plan. A lot of stuff for us to talk about tonight. I told you guys this is going to be an action-packed week. Before we get started, I do have a super chat to announce right off the bat here. Valar is saying, hello 999 Army, Kill Steph, Kells, Emmy, Sweet Tommy, sponsors, patrons, and of course all super chatters. If you guys were here last night, if not, you need to go back and watch the playback because I was fired up. I'm pretty fired up tonight. I cast some stones out there. I talked about Andy, and I talked about how he was involved in the writing of the show. Tonight, we've got some good information. We've got a brand new teaser that's out there, with Michonne visiting Negan. We're going to talk about it, Negan's master plan. And also, this is a semi-conspiracy, not even a conspiracy theory, but we've caught some flack in the past because we do have a lot of people that watch our show from all different areas, all different locations. Something really interesting has happened. We think that some of the producers, some of the actors watch and kind of get the pulse of the show. I'll tell you a couple reasons. One, because you guys are awesome. Number two, because we do take these flash surveys and find out what you think. And number three, the real-time comments. So if you were involved in the show, you could tune in for a little bit, see a couple of our comments, and say, hey, this is a good indication of what the fans think. But how many people were here for the show last night? Because I'm going to give you either a coincidence or something that is a mystery that we have not yet solved. Walking Dead Nerd sent me a Instagram a little bit earlier that I thought was extremely interesting. So last night we did make the comparison, and I predicted that there would be, actually 2 nights ago, but then last night we followed up on it, that Gimple would release this Walking Dead movie. And I used one analogy last night that said, hey, look, Rick's legacy would be great to take it from a series to the big screen, like Star Trek did back in the 60s when they went from Star Trek and then they hyped it up and then they went to the movie. Well, shortly after we made that comment on Norman Reedus' Instagram, Big Bald Head, he posted a picture of himself, Andy Lincoln, and Melissa, all in the original Star Trek uniforms. So kind of cut and pasted their head. So I'm just saying, it might have been a coincidence that we were talking about it and he posted it. Or, Norman, if you are watching, welcome to the 999 Army, my friend. And you know what? Give us a shout out next time you're in a Comic-Con, because that would be good publicity. So maybe it was coincidence, like I said. Maybe he actually tunes in. But I'm sure there's some people out there just kind of lurking. But hey, we got some stuff to talk about tonight. So awesome. And that's another reason why we don't have trolls here. Because if people come in and they troll, they ruin the experience for everybody else. And we want to bring in the people that are passionate about the show. And you guys know, we are fans. So yes, we slightly criticize from time to time, but we are fans of the show, and we're one of the few sites that really love the show and love the people that produce the show and get it out there. So let's talk about that love. And if you guys have some love for the 999 Army, hit that like button. Let's just do it right now. Get it out of the way. If you don't like what we do, hit the dislike button. It's all good. So a lot of you guys are here every night, but if you're watching the playback, we just want some opinions. We want some data. So we got Daniel, this is going to be tough. Kara Petchin, maybe? I'm going to go for it. I'm trying, Daniel. Says, hey, Kill, sorry I can't join today. It's my birthday. Just want to say thank you to you and all the patrons and everyone in 999 Army, best channel. So I want to give a super chat shout out to Daniel. If you guys could all do me a favor, thank you for that, for popping in, number one, but also want to say happy birthday. So if you guys could all give me just a birthday shout out to Daniel K. That would be awesome, just to show a little recognition. And it's understandable. We understand you can't stay here on your birthday, but thanks for at least popping in. And hopefully, if you're with some people and they're watching, then we'll give you a shout out, and then they'll know that 99 Army absolutely loves you being here. And watch the playback. You know what? Here's the caveat. Even if it's your birthday, you guys got to watch the playback. You got to get involved. But we'll forgive you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And to all of you, look at that. There's a lot of love in here, so thank you so much. We're going to talk about Negan's new plan. Oh, boy, it hit me. It hit me hard when I saw the teaser we saw Rick in the Comic-Con teaser sitting down giving food to Negan. So we know that he's been jailed for a long time. So he has eaten. But apparently he's going on strike. So it looks like his new plan is to commit suicide or to use that as leverage. So I don't know if he's serious about doing it or he is just going to use his negotiating skills. But Michonne basically comes in and says, eat. I'll be back in an hour. That needs to be gone. And then he understands that as long as he's alive, he is the symbol. And apparently he doesn't want to be the symbol anymore. He's decided he's learned all he needs to learn. You're either going to talk to me and give me some comfort, some level of enjoyment, something to look forward to keep me from going crazy, or I'm just going to starve myself and you're not going to have that any longer. So it does appear as if they are starting to straddle that line. Now, don't hate Negan just yet, to those of you that are starting to warm up to him just a little bit. Because I think we're going to be tested. We're going to get the idea that Negan has not changed. But the thing is that Angela Kang, Scott Gimple have already said, and even Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Negan is different. Negan's went through some things. So even though they kind of gave us the spoiler to that, right? I mean, we might be sitting here if they didn't give us that information saying, yeah, he's going back to his old ways, But instead, they told us he's not going back to his old ways, but the fact that they're showing us that he might be shows us that they're kind of playing with our emotions. They're not ready for us to fully accept him, so they're going to keep us in this warm water, until they kind of just throw us in all together. Which is very, very interesting because I still see some people out there saying, I'm not sure I'm ready to forgive him. I'm not sure. Let me tell you, you're going to forgive him. You're going to be put in a situation where we have no choice, where we're going to accept him. Maybe not full-fledged forgive him because we can always hold on to it, but the impact of the past is going to lessen. The fear of the future is going to manifest. So, yes, we could watch the episode right now with Glenn and get fired up and mad about it again. But there's going to be new dangers. They're already planting the seed when they say the Whisperers are going to be unlike anything that we've ever seen. And I'm going to give you just I saw this as a really jacked up, dumb theory. But the more I thought about it, it was not as bad. I don't know where I saw it, but it was kind of a farce. It was some people just making up some ideas. And it was along the lines of this. Now, bear with me for this, because it's going to seem a little crazy, but it does relate to Negan's desperation. So, someone had predicted that Negan will start to train, hold on for this, Daryl's dog. Now, let's think about this for a minute. Now, the way they said it was a little silly, but the more I thought about it, what if? Just what if? Hold on. So, you have this pet. No, just wait, Deborah, just wait a minute. I want to just give you the crazy theory so we can think outside of the box a little bit. Because we've seen this happen in cartoons, where Negan has this food and he's not eating the food. So he feeds the dog. The dog begins to trust him. And then, the dog brings him something else. Now, the jacked up theory was eventually the dog brings him the keys and he gets out of the jail cell. Now, I think that's extreme. But I do think it is. It's not my theory, Sherry. But what I want you to do by coming up with this theory is we've got to get outside the norm. We've got to get outside of Rick is surrounded by walkers, Rick's going to get eaten by walkers, and that's all that happens. But I think the bigger picture, in a lot of cases, pets are a good judge of character. I know personally, because I have one. I think that loyalty may show more, or that ability for the pet, the pet didn't see everything that went down, but if Negan was generally changing, we might see it kind of in the behaviors of how he reacts to other things. So even though I think Negan may feed the pet, I think Negan may get comfortable with the pet, but I don't think it's going to bring him the keys and he's going to open up the cell. But I want you to think about possibilities, because there's going to be some creativity with how this goes down. Negan is just not going to let himself out of the jail cell. We got a super chat, and I'll get back to this in 1 second, because we've got Julie McGuire saying, Kills, have you seen the new opening credits and the Easter eggs? I've actually seen comments on the Easter eggs as far as the birds, the windmill, what the impact of those, how I read a couple articles on it, how there's going to be more Easter eggs. And look, we have a lot of fun with that as well. So you guys know I love my hidden clues, and sometimes we go to an extreme with some of the hidden clues. Not everybody agrees with them, but we do like to find things that might mean something. Hey, people dogged my hidden clues when I said orange crush, and Abraham had orange hair and he got crushed. And I put a big picture of an orange crush up there, predicting it in April before it ever happened, and I caught so much flack because they said, no, there's no... Okay, whatever. Sometimes it pans out. But yes, we will talk about some of those. And Julie, will probably talk about some of the potential hidden clues tomorrow night. But I won't forget about you. So, with Negan, there's a couple things that we have to look at. We have to assess. Because, one, I know Negan has been manipulative. And I thought I saw Steph or someone type a little bit earlier. He's never been able to be trusted, so we don't have a baseline. But then, we don't know Negan's entire story. Now, would a backstory be relevant to understand him a little bit more? I don't think so. I don't think I need to know what Negan was like before that, because honestly, I think I know. I think most people were much, much more decent before the zombie apocalypse. Now, it might help some people on the fence. It might help people understand it a little bit. But I tend to think we're going to be more influenced by what they show us this season and his interaction with Rick. I think what goes down between him and Rick is ultimately going to decide whether or not we want to follow Negan in the future. But there are going to be other clues along the way. Like I said, you consider it crazy if you want, but I think if Daryl has a dog, if Daryl has a pet, and that dog shows some compassion toward Negan, and Negan shows some compassion toward the pet, I think that's a start. And I do think that will affect the audience. More for visual impact than anything else. If Negan kicked a dog, no one's ever going to forgive him. Point blank and period. If Negan shows that he can start to love or start to care, it's going to have an impact on everybody. And it won't get the people that are, I never will accept him, never, 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 never. But some of the people that are like, Kill's just going to take me a little bit more time, that's going to be a little bit more. And if Negan is not eating, maybe that food is going somewhere. So it might not be so outlandish. Now, a couple things are going to go down this week, and this is where I want to talk about NEGAN'S new plan. So at first, I don't think he has a plan. I think he's accepted being locked up. I think he's accepted the communities, the society is better without him to a degree. And I think he just doesn't want to be that statue any longer. And if he doesn't see an immediate way out, I think he's going to hit rock bottom, is the point that I'm trying to get to. To a point where the only thing he looks forward to is talking to Rick, talking to Michonne, and talking to Father G. Because I think he either wants to die or he wants to find a cause. And he knows his cause is not what it was 2 years earlier. Uncle, I think he's broken. I think he is as broken as he made Rick. Here's the thing, okay? And I think this is very important. Daryl was locked up. The irony, this is very ironic. Daryl was locked up. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to play. Actually, hold on. How many people here? I'm gonna predict this. I don't know if anybody's predicted it, but I'll throw it out there. I'm wondering if Eugene will play Easy Street for Negan just once, just one time. Anybody here think that Eugene might rig the radio? But I don't think, if they did it, I don't think it would be a constant torture. Now remember, there's a different scenario. What I think would be funnier, I don't think Eugene will play it, but what I think would be funnier if Eugene kind of walked by and it's like, just like a little eerie whistle. Wouldn't that be like enough? And the difference is, there's many differences between Daryl's situation and Negan's situation. Is number one, Negan was trying to break Daryl to recruit him. No one is trying, and that would be like the Savior's whistle too, right? It'd be like a 2-for-1 special. So, they're not trying to break Negan. They're just trying to imprison him. He's a prisoner. They don't care. They don't want him to confess his wrong. They just want him locked up, and they want everybody to see him as an example. So Daryl's situation was different, but there are some similarities. Daryl, and if you've never seen this, I did a video where I was talking about hidden clues. And Daryl's scene where he was naked and in the jail cell where he was kind of, sitting up and he was shaking. There's a video, Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses, Don't Cry, the original, where Axl is kind of sitting like that, and it's almost like he's in a grave and he's looking up. If you guys have seen the video of Don't Cry, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I saw that scene and I thought they're very, very similar. So when I did the hidden clues, I thought they actually used that in order to be their influence. I never saw it publicized, but that was kind of my feeling of it. But I felt like both were in the situation where they were dead, and then something happened to sort of click and to change. So with Daryl, The real low point was the picture of Glenn, the Polaroid. So, with Negan and constituting Negan's new plan, I feel like there could be some flashbacks. How many people here, you know what, I'm going to ask the group, because this isn't all just what I think. How many people think that instead of a backstory, that we will see Negan waking up maybe in cold sweats, having memories of the people that he killed, having memories of the people that he wronged? Because I think this would be an incredible tool for the writers to use. Once again, I think it's another layer showing that, Negan wakes up in cold sweats and it's a vision of Glenn. Right? Where you start to see the remorse. You start to see how he was called in the moment. And he was called in the power. And he was called in and making the example. And there are rules. And this is what happens when you violate the rules. So, yeah, it could be Glenn haunting him. Could be Abraham. Could be some of his speeches coming back to haunt him. It could be all of those things. Crystal, I don't think they can keep him as a psychopath. I think the psychopath tag is really in what we view him as. And certainly we could view him as that now. But remember, it's also important of what everybody else views him as. It's also important in what his interactions are and how they write his character. They could write him as if they really wanted to, they could put him in a white suit and have him just kind of roam around the Garden of Alexandria, and we wouldn't look at him as a psychopath. We'd look at him as a person that's just a vegetable, that's just gone. I mean, there's a lot of ways they can change the narrative of who Negan is. It won't totally erase everything that we've seen, but it will start to shape. And this is why I said I don't think it's important that we get a backstory, but I think flashbacks would be a more powerful tool. And then I think ultimately it's going to go down to, what does he do to ingratiate himself? What does he do to change? What does he do to carry on Rick's legacy? The only way that Negan is ever going to be able to survive on this show and ever be accepted on this show is to have a direct correlation with Rick Grimes. I don't see any other way that he can survive it. Stephen, absolutely. I think, the loss of Simon, all the people he thought he trusted and thought he had relationships with and just ruled out of fear. And they could not only just show flashbacks, they could show things that he did that we weren't privy to, that we didn't fully see. So I've got kind of a three-pronged theory here. Well, actually four. Let's just make it like a table, right? We'll have four legs of this theory. So one was the Negan tease that the writer's going to give us. And that's going to be, nope, he's still a smartass. Nope, he hasn't changed. Nope, still Negan. That's the tease. But then number two is going to be the Negan change, right? It's going to be what he does to prove himself. Number three, and not maybe not prove himself yet, but to gradually start to show he's transitioning. That would be my point. Number 3 is going to be there still needs to be a need for him. If there's no need, then his story, it doesn't matter. So the need is going to arise much, much later on when they're looking around for any and everybody. If an intruder breaks in to your home, you don't necessarily stop and say, this thing might hurt worse than other things. You're probably going to grab whatever the closest thing is to you. And I think with Negan, he's going to be put in a situation where the group needs him. And number 4, and what I think is the most powerful dynamic, and then we'll get into Negan's plan, how I think it's going to play out, is Negan's relationship with Rick and Negan to be the one to carry on Rick's legacy in some way or form. Carl started the legacy. That burden was transitioned to Rick. And I think that burden is going to be transitioned to Negan. And I'll tell you why. An additional reason why I think it's going to happen. What is... Okay, we'll go to Fear the Walking Dead. So seasons 1 to 3 in Fear the Walking Dead. What was Alicia's motivation? And this will show you how, as viewers, we can be manipulated. Another Fox says her mom, to help her mother out, family. Okay. The last few episodes of Fear, what was Alicia's motivation? Helping others. Creepy got it. It's helping people. Some people are like, carrying on Madison's leg, maybe early on. It was survival. It was family. It was, probably always wondering like, why can Nick do everything and then I do one thing wrong and you don't treat me the same way? You love Nick. I felt the first 3 seasons, Madison definitely loved Nick more than she loved Alicia. I always felt like Alicia was trying to live up to something, like live up to what her mom thought about Nick. And that bothered me. But in the last couple episodes, even she couldn't answer Charlie, and she said, I just want to take you to the beach because, that would be good. And I need something good. And that would be good. And she said like good, like 4 times. She said good, good, good. She was so confused that she wanted to do something good. She wanted to make up for all the bad that's happening in the world. And I got a super chat, so I'm going to juxtapose that with Negan's story in 1 second. So let me jump into eBeach72 where he says, I would like to see Rick's demise come from a murder attempt from the Savior's Rebellion. eBeach, give me a little bit more, because if it's Rick's demise, then it wouldn't be a murder attempt. It would actually be, are you saying that you would like to see an actual murder from the Saviors? What do you mean by demise? You mean death? Or do you mean him falling out of favor? Because if the Saviors murder him, I don't know there's ever going to be peace. I don't know that's a reason for an olive branch at that point. Right. Michael, I get that, but I'm trying to figure out why that would be his demise. If there's a murder attempt on Rick, I want to understand the full context. Where's E-Beach? Come on, E-Beach. Give me a follow-up. I'm zoned in on it now. And if I move on, he's going to type it in the midst of like 1,000 comments, and I'll miss it. All right. We'll get back to Eric in a little bit. Okay, hold on. Rick's leaving the show. The Saviors will cause war again to the Whisperers show, and they'll have to get Negan in charge. Okay. So you mean not a murder attempt, you mean an actual murder. Or Negan saving, or Negan saving Rick from a murder attempt? Okay. But I don't know that would constitute him leaving the show unless he actually gets murdered. It's a tough stretch for me. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying, as a viewer, all right. So let me kind of play that out, because if there's a murder attempt on Rick, he's not going to run. I mean, Rick is not going to, hey, you tried to kill me. Rick's going to kill somebody. Or somebody else going to kill the Savior for him. I don't see that. I mean, I don't want to mix up Andy leaving the show with Rick leaving the show. Rick only has a couple alternatives to leave the show. Rick Grimes, the character. Die or kidnapped or bit and taken away. And then there's this mystery of what happened to him. So I think other than that, there's not a lot of other possibilities. I know they're saying it's going to be epic, and he wanted to think of something that worked for the fans. But I, like many of you, have probably rolled this around in my mind a million times, and there's just only so many ways that a person can leave. Now, dying encompasses a lot of different things. So, E-Beach, to your point, die by Walker, die by Savior. But if a Savior were to kill him and Negan were to step in to try to calm down the revolt, that's not impossible, but it is a strong, strong stretch. One, that may be the person that's needed to calm down a revolt. But from an audience perspective, I don't think that they can build that story in 5 episodes, especially when we may not see Negan until the 3rd, 4th, and 5th episode. We may not see him until, I think at the earliest, he's going to be in the 2nd episode. I don't think he's in the 1st episode at all. But you're talking about 3 episodes. That's a huge storyline to get people to accept it and then just kind of say, all right, well, help us. Now, helping in a Whisper War is a long term. I could see that. But Negan jumping in after Rick's been murdered, I don't see that happening. Negan stopping an attempted murder on Rick, then you still got to follow it up with something else. Yeah, that part of it, Eric, I'm okay with some of the theory, but I think the acceptance of Negan is going to be the real tough play for everybody. And I try to view it from 2 different perspectives. Maybe 3. Is how the characters react to him based on what we see, how the characters should react to him based on what we know about the history of the characters, and how we're going to react to him. And I think those are all working sort of at the same time. And there's sometimes they get it all wrong. And that's just the writers being out of context. You know, they have no clue what we think and what we feel sometimes. Most of the times they do. But if the Saviors were to do something to Rick, I think the characters could nominate Negan and say, yes, do it. But the history of the characters tells me that they won't do it, and then the fans probably would not be accepting to that either. So I think 2 out of 3 of those really, I don't know if they pass the test. And that's fine, Eric. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a Negan fan, but you still have to realize that probably 70% of the audience still is not, and 50% of the audience is probably on the fence wondering whether they will be or they won't. So there's probably 20 that are going to be Negan haters forever. And it's really that 50% that the writers have to appeal to. And if you come up with just a corny story and just kind of throw it on people and say, no, something's going on with Rick and you're going to accept Negan as the leader, that's not going to flow very well with at least half of the audience, in my opinion. Jimmy's Jam with a super chat says the Saviors are a broken bunch. They need much help. They need too much help to hate anybody. Plus, they're going to have troubles inside their sanctuary. Plus, they hate Negan and fear Negan. So, Jimmy, I think that kind of plays into the point, right? Is that we have to look at, we know that when you hear the announcer like, Rick Grimes is here, Rick Grimes is here. And you know, you kind of hear like, is Negan dead? I wish he would die. You hear like these things in the background, like people, they don't want him. They don't want Negan. Look, there's a couple. But the majority of the people, the characters on the show, either want him dead or never want him out of that jail cell. So, you know, we're constantly trying to think of ways for that audience to accept it. So I'm going to throw it out there again. I'm going to give you my big 4. 1, the Negan tease. The Negan tease is, I'm still bad, but we know he's not. We know that he's changing. Number 2, the Negan change when we actually see the transition happening. Number 3, the Negan need. And number 4, Negan and Rick. So, Eric, to kind of take your point a step further, I think it is more believable that Negan gets out, Negan gets surrounded, and Rick sacrifices himself for Negan. If I'm going to go with a Rick death theory, that's going to be my death theory. It's going to be that Rick does something just completely selfless, and everybody knows what Rick stands for, and everybody knows that Rick is willing to give his life for the person that least deserves it. And I think that is the transition. If you believe he's going to die, which I still don't. And Blood Eagle, it will change Negan, but it will, I think, would give him that permanence. And as we go back, Negan's already started changing. And I've highlighted this. So I want you to go back to season 8. And we'll test, because this is my moment. There was one moment that I saw that I think the writers put in there, and I think they overdid it to force us into accepting Negan. So see if you guys can remember what my theory was, and see if you have your own. If there was that one moment. And I'll remind you that the moment that they made Negan so hated was the Glenn moment. So Julie says when he killed Davy, that wasn't the moment for me. Joseph, you got it. Joseph, you hit it right there for me. Julie McGuire as well. So a lot of you guys remember, and this might have been your moment. It was when he was talking to Rick on the walkie, and nobody else was around. And as viewers, we saw the look on his face, and we saw his reaction to Carl's death. That part to me was the part that said, they put it in there for us, not for Rick. We could hear what he said to Rick. Rick could hear what he said to Rick, but nobody else could see that raw reaction of how disappointed, and then it went to anger. He got choked up, and then it went to like, it's your fault that Carl's dead. He blamed Rick for not taking care of Carl. So immediately it was like it was his son. So you knew with all the stuff going on with Negan that the writers at that point, they were really going to force this narrative on everybody. It was going to make Carl's death have more value, more meaning. And I don't think that story has been completely told yet. I think that story is this season. And I think they're going to use that story for Andrew's exit. Now, Negan's plan. And we'll tie this in. I think initially there was no plan. He was going to starve himself. And then I think he realized that he needs to earn everybody's trust. Now, whether it's real, whether it's not real, that's for the audience to decide. But he uses negotiation tactics with Michonne. He's not going to eat unless she sits down and talks to him. Now, the Negan haters, the people that absolutely feel like he's trying to get back in charge, they're going to say, he's trying to manipulate Michonne. But I would ask you this. Is he trying to manipulate Michonne? Or is he genuinely lonely? Does he want an update of what's going on? Does he miss freedom? Or, and that's a good point, Scotty, I'm not going to discount that. Is he trying to seduce Michonne or hit on Michonne? That's not inconceivable for Negan. We got Jimmy's Jam, and he says, here's the thing I can't get past with the radio. A few episodes before that, he was going to bash Carl's head in, so I wasn't affected by the radio scene with Carl's death story. And Jimmy, I will absolutely agree with you and tell you it was bad writing. I think it was bad writing. Because they wanted Negan to torture Rick. And it should have been somebody else. And I don't say that often because I love the show. But that was terrible. Joseph, that was no bluff. I don't think he was going to stop the swing. Well, but hang on. You know what? I think that deserves to be analyzed. And look, there's no way of knowing the truth. It depends on where you stand with Negan. So, the scene with Rick and Carl kneeling and Negan taking a swing, where Shiva jumped in. I need all the 999 Army to answer this question right here, right now. I need your opinion on this. Would he have done what he did with Daryl? He tried to make Daryl flinch, remember? And he stopped. And like kind of like that. And then he walked away while they kind of beat him up a little bit. Was he going to go through with it and kill Carl, or was he going to get to the point of having Rick break down? Donald Frank says full swing. DJ says would have killed him. Emma Michalik said don't think he's going to stop. So most people say he was going to do it. And that goes back to Jimmy's Jam and Super Chat is, wait, he had these feelings for Carl and, respected him, and just a few episodes earlier he was going to kill him. So, if most people think it was a full swing, then the answer that I would give you is, in one of the few instances of The Walking Dead, I would say that was bad writing. If you actually believe he was going to go through with it. And I do think so. I think they wanted him to go through with it because the writers were so they wanted to give us that hero moment. Which brings me to something very important I want to discuss with each of you, because we talked about it a little bit last night. Do you guys remember that swing? Tell me how you felt when Shiva jumped out in a nick of time. When Ezekiel walked around the corner. When the tide started turning. Not the bad writing part. Pumped, right, Karen? Relief. Cheered. Like I won the lottery. I loved it. So most people, Emmy said amazing. It was epic. Emma, a hero moment. Okay. The reason I'm bringing this up, I think it further adds validation that we want a hero moment with Rick. That we've had so many bad moments. We've had so many moments of agonizing through the loss and the death, and we like this character and we did this, and sometimes they have to make good characters into villains on the show so they can kill them so we don't miss them as much, Shane. But it happens, right? Myco the Psycho, Rick dying saving someone is not going to give us that Shiva moment. You know what we're going to call it? We're going to call it a Shiva moment. Because there's very few moments on the show where we've had that. It's a dark world. It's a zombie world. People die. People get eaten. But hopefully Rick saw this when Rick was deciding to come back for a few episodes, and I bashed him pretty good last night. I really did. But this was the point I was trying to get at. If we see this animosity playing out between the groups, and Rick can exit and leave it open-ended, and the groups start to solve their differences, then that's our hero moment. That's the moment where we don't have to kill off the biggest character in the history of Walking Dead just to kill him off. That's the moment where we can leave it open-ended, we can have him taken away via helicopter, we can wonder what just happened to Rick. We'll be calling each other, we'll be doing live streams. Where's Rick? What happened to Rick? And then a movie comes out, And then we find out what happened to Rick. Could be the Commonwealth. Maybe the Commonwealth doesn't get introduced on the TV show for a couple years. Maybe we see them in the movie beforehand. Whatever the case may be. That would be an iconic moment. And I think the writers could give us that, right? I mean, of all the stuff we put up with in 9 years, I don't want to use the word owe, but they kind of owe us that. It'd be a nice story, be a nice way to play out. Give us a little bit of that hope. I'm okay with having hope for a little bit longer, for a couple more seasons. Now, we can't change what's already happened, but in some regards, we've talked to a degree about this. We might be adding some new narratives, some new scenarios to it, but this is not a completely new concept for us to talk about. So the writers have known this about, especially this group, the 999 Army, for a while, because we've asked for it. And you can always say hindsight, when we go back and look on what they do and what they should have done and what they did. But for that reason, I don't think that they did it. I don't think they killed him. And I think there's money to be made. And we know AMC likes making money. We know they like telling a good story. But they do tell it for a price. It's not free. Right, Rhonda, I agree. I'm sure. I'm sure. I know they do, because we've seen copyright content before. We've seen a lot of stuff kind of get out there. There's no doubt that people affiliated with the show watch YouTube channels. I would like to hope they watch our streams, because I think we have real-time pulse of our viewers. And I think you guys are awesome. So there's all the more incentive for them to come and hang out with us. Now, I don't think they're going to pop in here and use their real names. That would be foolish. But I do think that they keep an eye on what we talk about. Got eBeach72 says, we know the groups are going to be at odds due to supply provided. Negan will end up being needed to end the story arc of the Whisperers and lead. So, that definitely qualifies as the need. So remember, and if you guys are tuning in late, Negan tease, Negan change, Negan need, Negan Rick. Those are the 4 things I want you to remember, because I think that encompasses everything to change Negan's arc. So the need is definitely going to be the part of the Whisperers, E-Beach. I agree with you. And I think the change will be a result of people being at odds. But don't discount the Negan-Rick ending. I would almost guarantee you right now it is related. Whether Rick dies or whether Rick leaves, I think something has to do with the sacrifice for Negan. We got another super chat, and this is Newfield12. Says, no question, just love kills the mods, the 999 Army, and the Walking Dead. You guys could do me a favor, because that was not just to me. That was to everybody in this room. You guys could all do me a favor and just put TY. Because I'm going to say thank you for that as well. But I love the super chats, and there's not one super chat that's better than any others. But we've gotten a birthday shout out today. We've got some people just pop in. Valar, coming in every day saying thank you. So that thank you, I just want to go out to all the super chatters, to Valar especially, who does it every single episode. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but usually when Valar is here, the first introduction is to come in and make a super chat and say thank you. So Crystal doing the same thing, and they're all each are always very careful not just to say, hey, thanks, Kills, because they understand. Look, I just have a microphone. You guys make the streams and you guys make the chats. If you guys weren't here, then I'd probably be like Negan. I'd be alone in a room talking to myself, which would not be fun. All right. We got a lot of thank yous, so there you go. There's a little bit of payback, hopefully. Awesome group, and good dialogue. So, Negan's new plan is not always one to be taken, depending on which side of the argument you're on. A plan could be a sinister device, right? Like, he has this concept of how do I win power back? How do I get everybody? And there's a lot of you that do think that. Nothing wrong with that. And you very well might be right. But his plan could be along the lines of Alicia. It could be, what do I do to curry favor? What do I do to change the perception? What do I do just because I need to do it? And I think that's the wild card the writers are holding in their hand. They're going to play that card at the perfect moment just to melt us. Just, I can't hate this guy any longer. Look, he likes puppies. It's going to be, and Casey, it does and it doesn't. I think right now it does. It depends on whether you like Negan or you don't like Negan. But a lot of people didn't like Dwight, and a lot of people do like Dwight. And a lot of people didn't like Negan, and when Negan killed Davy, and when Negan had his Carl moment, and when Negan was about to talk to Rick before Rick cut his throat, a lot of people lightened up. Me being one of them. Now, I have not forgiven him. But I will tell you, my venom, my vengeance toward Negan is much, much less than it was a year ago. So I'm kind of speaking through a couple different channels. One, my own personal experience with Negan. And number two, because I see a lot of these streams and I see a lot of the chats, I don't always remember person by person, like who hated this person, who liked them, but I can get a general sense of the audience. And I know in streams we did in the past, it was almost unanimous. 85 to 90% of people, the people that didn't hate Negan, most of them were comic book fans that had already been through the whole Negan story. A small percentage of our viewers, and I would say maybe 10%, gave Negan a pass and said, I know Negan's going to change later on. I don't hate him. I actually like him. But then there are 85 to 90% that hated him. And now it's probably down to half. So it does start to change. But you're right. Some of it is based on where you feel about him now. But some of it is going to be that card. They're holding this card in their hand. And what does that look like? You know what? You guys, unbelievable. I blush when you guys do this sometimes. This is absolutely amazing. So, Valar, thank you again. Other than to read it and to acknowledge it, I don't know what else I can say except, Valar super chatting. Thank you to the Army. Kills, Steph, Kells, Emmy, Sweet Tommy, sponsors, mods, all super chatters, and every single one of the people in here awesome. So, just unbelievable. Thank you so much. I absolutely love doing streams around an audience that is not only a passionate group of people, an intelligent group of people, good theories, good predictions, but is also just a stand-up group of people that's fun to hang out with. I mean, how can you beat that? We're like, I'm the luckiest channel host on YouTube. So, thank you again. The Negan card is a very powerful card, and you'll probably hear me talk about this a few times. And that is where they have to overplay the writing for an immediate pop, an immediate impact. It happened with the Carl scene. It's when the audience is privy to something that is so much more powerful than what the characters are privy to. If you guys were Moonlighting fans, I know I mentioned this in a previous stream, I think in a Random Things, where David Addison would turn around and say, and speak to the audience. So you see things happening with Maddie, with Sybil Shepherd, but then Bruce Willis would turn around and say, "Do bees beeth? Do bears beareth?" You know, where it'd be like a soliloquy or it'd be something from Shakespeare. And that would resonate with the audience. It would give them something. And I think the writers do that, where they put these, it's not only the hidden clues, it's not only the Easter eggs, but it's these subconscious things that they show us, that they force upon us, that we see that no one else sees. And that Negan card is going to play out. It's going to be something along the lines of, everybody's gone, and Negan is feeding the puppy, and is talking to him, and is befriending him. And Daryl doesn't see it, and Rick doesn't see it, but as audience members, we see it, and we're going to be, wow, okay, he's not doing that to take over. He's not doing that to impress upon anybody else. He's not doing that so they go brag about him. They are going to write that into Negan's character. Negan is going to do things that we accept that is going to change our viewpoint of him. And they'll start out gradually with the tease, and eventually they will lay it on really, really thick, with the ultimate being Negan's relationship with Rick. So as I said, Negan's plan, if you're not a Negan supporter, is going to look like Sinister Takeover. If you are, his plan might be of something as true and pure as, how do I assist Rick? How do I help out with the next danger? Those are the things that they will do at some point this season, because we, sadly and unfortunately, are going to need Negan. Everybody in this chat, we're going to need him. Hate to say it, because the whispers are going to be bad news. They are going to do things to some of these characters that you're going to feel, that you're going to hate, that are going to infuriate you so much more than what we saw with the Saviors. They're going to make the Saviors, they're going to meld them in, they're going to blend them into our group, and they're going to show the Whispers as a true battle-tested enemy. Well, Lonnie, I'm going to tell you, it's going to happen. They're going to force us into a corner. They're going to make us love these characters. They're going to show us a brutal decapitation of Jesus. And we're going to want anybody to step up and to put them down that can possibly step up. And I think AMC is going to walk that line of brutality. Actually, I don't think they're going to walk the line. I think AMC is going to cross the line of brutality for shock and for impact and for devastation and for acceptance of Negan. I think there's going to be an ulterior motive. Storm3851 with a super chat. And again, we've gotten several of these today. Nothing to ask. Just trying this out. You're great. Thank you so much. It works. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. We've got an amazing group of super chatters and amazing group of supporters for this channel. And now we got a question, so I'll throw it out there because and tell you guys a little bit about the super chats. Obviously, there is a financial attachment to it, and I don't know how low it can go because I haven't done it on here, but it is a contribution. But it's also one of the things that we do with super chats is whichever comment is super chatted, we're going to read it, we're going to acknowledge it. It'll be a permanent part of this video. I mean, all the comments are streaming so people can see it, but the fact that it highlights it and we're going to give it a little bit more attention. So we did have some people ask about it. If you are interested in super chatting, it's down below where the emojis are. There's a $sign. Once you do it, the only thing I'd say is don't just hit it. Put a comment because we want you to type stuff. It's nice that you guys are doing stuff and making contributions to the channel, but truly, I want to see your thoughts and I want to see your opinions. That's at the very core of everything we do. It's based on interaction. With that being said, we have hit 65 minutes. So it's 65 minutes. Once again, I'm going to ask you guys, hit the like button, give this video a thumbs up, share it, talk about it. But if I could ask you guys, just for a big favor, when this video goes live, one thing that's very important to me is that maybe you don't have the time to watch the whole hour, but watch a little bit of it and read the comments because there are people watching the playback that while they're watching the playback, they're reading everything that you type right now. And so it's real time to them. So if you could do that and just comment on their comments because some of the dialogue and the back and forth we get is absolutely incredible. So I know not everybody can be here for an hour every night, but our interaction with them really hypes up the video a little bit more and makes it more personal to them. So we got a couple more super chats and want to jump in. We got Richard Barnes says, any confirmation for the episode Negan Escapes? Thanks everyone for making these streams enjoyable. No. But Richard, this is what I would say I think he will, I have heard he will leave the cell multiple times. So I don't know if it's just an escape. I still feel like he will have access or a way to get out, and he'll roam around and he'll be doing things once he decides that he doesn't want to starve himself. Also, we got Laura Butler says, I'm late. If you haven't done it already, could you please remind everyone to go vote for Andy at the People's Choice Award? You can send 25 votes a day. Laura, actually, you just super chatted it, so everybody do that. I'll read it, and we'll talk about it more and more. But the fact that you made it a permanent part of this video, everybody watching the video that gets to the end of it will see that, and hopefully that gets Andy a few more votes as well. So thank you for that as well. So we have hit 67 minutes, a little bit longer than our normal stream. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate everything that you do. Guess what we'll be doing tomorrow night at 9:30? Absolutely, we will be back here. So if you got some thoughts, you got some comments, there's brand new news is coming out. I couldn't get to everything tonight, but we will talk about it tomorrow night. So just a little bit of tidbit of a potential Rick exit. I know we didn't get too far into it, but there is it's mini spoiler news. It's along the same lines of what we predicted, but there's a slight wrinkle to it. Don't keep yourself up over it. It'll just be something that we'll talk about tomorrow night. So thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate everything that you guys do. I want to give a shout out to the patrons. You can see them up in the top left-hand corner. Thank you so much for everything that you guys do on a month-by-month basis. You guys are awesome. In the top right corner, we got the people whose names are in green that have custom emojis. Those are the sponsors of the channel as well. And, of course, we've got the mods, Emmy, Steph, Tommy, Kells, and tonight, a lot of super chatters, so I just want to read out the super chatters. If you guys get a chance to watch the playback, you'll see their comments. But we got Valar, we got Daniel, who's his birthday, happy birthday, Julie McGuire, eBeach72, Jimmy's Jammin', Newfeld12, Storm3851, Richard Barnes, and of course Laura Butler there at the end too. So thank you so much, everybody. And as we do for every video, I try to get as many shout-outs as I possibly can. It's something that will never change with this because it is at the core of everything we do. I would not be here without each and every one of you. And I know we can't shout out everybody every single night, so you'll see how quick the stream just goes crazy. So if you guys could all type me a 999, I want to give as many shout-outs. If you're watching the playback, this is the closing credits. But this is just something I want to continue to do. If I ever miss you in a shout out for whatever reason, please don't take it personally. Just shoot me a message and say, Kill's been a few videos since you called me out, and I'll absolutely do it. So I want to say what's up to C. Crinch, Sinister One, Jennifer Flaherty, Shane Yutzi, Rubelo's channel, Emma McCalick, Denise Hopkins, Joseph Grindstaff, Michelle M., Trevor Grimm, Sherry Bentley, Ziglet. A lot of new people here as well. Timothy Lamora. If you guys are new, hit the subscribe button. Not because I make any money if you guys subscribe, but because I need you back here because we want your thoughts and your opinions. It's nice to have a whole bunch of subscribers, but the reality is that's not what makes or breaks a channel. It's your ideas, it's your concepts, it's your interaction, it's your involvement. So that's absolutely the reason we want you guys to come back and just join us, because we are seeing more perspectives and more thoughts and more theories, and it's just absolutely awesome. Ron Burgundy Moore, thank you for being here. Chris Riddle, Rhonda DeLuca, Ed or Holly Fire Squirrel, thank you so much. Sheila Cabby, who else we got? Michael Curie, thank you. Graylin28, Northside Queen, good to see you. Maggie B as well. Hippo in the house. B Squared, Bumblebee Brown, Coral Elam, thank you. Patrick Ivers, thank you so much, Patrick. Appreciate that. Well, Lonnie, thank you. Have a great night. Real Dave Doherty, thank you, Dave. Vulgar Display of Power, Myko the Psycho, Amber McGilton, Tanya Watson. I have to really go out of my way for that because, yeah, she knows why. Who else we got? Samantha Coombs, thank you. Angie Kinley. Are all the Kimberly G's in the house tonight? I hope so. I just got to do that because normally they're here. This is great, too. Crystal the Singer Chick Gore, newbies. I was you 2 months ago. Now a Patreon. Best thing I've done. I love kills and the streams. He's promised when we meet, we will do a karaoke, and we absolutely will. Once we kick off 999 Live, and who knows, that could be as early as Comic-Con. We'll talk about it. I will absolutely post a karaoke. Now, Crystal the Singer Chick sings for a living. I don't. I just pretend to do it sometimes at the end of YouTube streams. It depends. If there's a comment or something that comes out and it provokes a song, then you might hear me belt something out. And Easy Street, I don't know why I get a lot of requests for Easy Street. Chad Gilbert says, do you think one of Rick's hallucinations could be comic episode 100, him walking through all the past dead? Chad, you were on to something. I am not going to go into it tonight, but if you're here tomorrow night, I will promise you that will be a topic of conversation. So thank you for the super chat. Tune in tomorrow, and we will definitely discuss a lot of that topic. Fair enough? Hope so. Hope we're good. Have a good night, Madison. Thank you as well. Justin Barrett, have a good night. Uncle Creepy, have a good night as well. Candy's Aid. Have a good night, Caleb. Caleb, I can say that is a negative. I did not, because there's probably been about 5,000 comments, and I did miss it a little bit earlier, but I don't have time to touch on it tonight. But throw your theory into the stream tomorrow and just kind of remind me, and we'll look for it. But always interested in discussing new theories and new comments. But no, I didn't see it earlier. Sorry. Jimmy Sue, have a good night. Thank you. Angie Kinley, this is such an awesome group. So glad I joined. Thank you. I'm glad you're part of it. Hopefully you guys really appreciate the job the moderators do. Brooklyn Hudson, have a good night. They work overtime to keep the bad apples away as much as possible. I mean, with some leeway. I know people sometimes they get emotional about the show, and there's some things. I mean, we're not here to block and ban, but I mean there are people that are just belligerent, and we've probably, I don't know, I threw a number out there one time. I'd probably say 5,000 people. So think about this, out of almost 80,000 people, we blocked probably 8% of YouTube. Maybe less. Anyway, I haven't done the math. I'll go back and do the official math, but you get an idea. There's a lot of people that their sole goal was just to pop in and say crazy stuff. But I am so glad that we have the people that we have. Shelton Arthur, thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, everybody, we're good. I'm gonna go ahead and wind this thing down. Thank you, Tracy Dees, as well. As I said, there's a ton of shout outs we didn't get to. Join in tomorrow, and we'll try to catch up a few extra ones tomorrow. You guys, thank you so much, and I will talk to you then. Peace.